Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of The Mountains We Climb. In each episode, we will be diving into the mind of someone who has overcome significant challenge and adversity so that we, as the listeners, can get insight into what is really possible and what it really takes. I'm your host, Jordan Kilpatrick Smith, and today we're going to be exploring one man's journey of rebuilding after waking up from comatose due to a catastrophic car accident that broke both his body and his mind. Jim, thank you so much for being here. Can you start us right at the beginning of your story?
Okay, I guess it was January 25th, 2005, and it was in Hamilton, Ontario. Beautiful day. Um, that day, I think it was one of those freak days in January where it was plus 16 during the day. It was almost like a summer day, and it had caused a lot of the snow to melt. And what happened is later on in the evening around 8, 9, there was a quick freeze. So it went from like plus 16 during the day to minus 16, like
Right.
very quickly. And I was on my way home. I was in Hamilton at the time, was driving home. And just a side part to the story is, as I was driving home, I called my son and said, Jimmy, do you want to come with me? I'm going to my house in Grimsby. Do you want to come with me? And he said, no, Dad, no, I'm just going to stay here. And as I look back, I think, thank God he did. I'm driving home. The access I usually take down the escarpment, it had been blocked off. Somebody had died, so they transferred me to another one, a much steeper one. As I was coming down the escarpment, everything had been blocked off. Everything was slow, so we're coming down the escarpment, and it's a very steep incline. And on the very last bend, I imagine this because due to the accident, I'm not 100% sure of what happened, but
Right.
I tried to make the last turn, and everything had frozen over, and the car wouldn't turn. It just kept sliding, and I slid into somebody else, head-on collision. And I now think I remember of saying to myself, just from what I've learned in karate, is relax, relax. If you relax, you're much safer in an accident. So I tried to relax. The next thing that happened, I woke up, and I remember realizing, oh, heck, I've been in an accident, reaching down, and a little bit gruesome, but I could feel the blood, and I had shattered the bottom of my leg, and I could feel the bone had come through, right? And I think at that point I passed out.
Yeah.
And it took me, I think it took the fire brigade and the ambulance, it took them about 50 minutes to cut me out of the car, and then I was transferred to the hospital. I guess I woke up 17, 18, 19 days later, and they explained to me that I had been involved in an accident. So it was
Yeah.
quite the experience.
So when you woke up, do you remember, what is the first thing you remember after coming back to consciousness after the accident?
Um, I think one of the first things unpleasant, again, as I pulled the tubes out of because they had me intubated and stuff, I pulled the tubes out, and that was a horrible experience. Um, I guess,
So you just
first,
woke up and you were like, get this out of me, and
well,
yanked
I
it
don't
out?
even know if I had woken up, but I just remember pulling myself, and because the tubes were down, it was such a horrible feeling. Um, I guess the first real conscious thing was I was strapped to the bed. They had me actually strapped to the hospital bed because of the brain injury. They didn't want me getting up because my leg there were steel rods all the way through my leg, through my my knee and stuff like that. So they realized that I would if I tried to get up or I fell out the bed, I was in big trouble. So they actually had me strapped to the bed, and for it, I could never, the whole feeling of not being able to get up, being strapped to the bed, it was horrible. It's probably more horrible than the accident itself.
Right.
And I had to be that way for quite a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. So when you woke up and you were like, okay, so I'm in the hospital, I got these tubes in me, I'm strapped to this bed. What was going through your mind? Or maybe everything was a bit hazy then. So when the doctor started coming in and talking to you and like, look, Jim, you were in an accident. What was going through your mind at that point?
Um, I was, to tell you the truth, I don't think a lot was going through my mind other than I want to go home, right? I want to go home. I want to get out of here. And I couldn't. I was in lockdown and I couldn't understand. My wife would come to the hospital. My kids would come to the hospital, my parents, and I kept saying to them, get me out of here. Take me out of here. Take me down. I want to get home. And they kept explaining to me, Jim, you can't. There's
Hmm.
no way you can go home. Um, I guess that my just realizing the severity of the situation, and really not being able to comprehend what was going on. It was just overwhelming for me at the time.
Yeah. And so what came next? So you after, this lockdown period ended, where were you? What was going on?
Um, well, it's actually a kind of interesting story. So the surgeries on my leg, there's steel rods that went through my leg. The first time when the surgeon came into the room, and my legs are on the bed and stuff like that, and I said to the surgeon, I said, "Excuse me, but my leg, it looks like it's on crooked," because they had to straighten out my leg because it was so badly broken up. So the bottom portion of my leg was on an angle. And I said to him, I goes, listen, my leg, it doesn't look straight. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, well, look. So he came up and he went, oh, yeah, I think you're right. And he goes, maybe we should fix that. And I said, yeah, maybe we should. Right. So he scheduled it for the next week or the next day or whatever, and they had to go in and actually straighten the lower portion of my leg out, right? So they had to re-break it, go in and fix that up, and they fixed that up. So that was the one thing, and then from there, again, I was trying to get out. I couldn't figure out why I couldn't leave the hospital, and they were just explaining that after I left the general hospital in Hamilton, I wasn't getting to go home. I had to go to the brain injury hospital, right? Again,
Right.
which is on Hamilton, but I had to go there and do some therapy to get my thinking proper
Mhm.
again. So I was in that hospital again for a couple of months as well.
Yeah. So what was that process like?
The hospital itself, it was again horrible because I was locked down. I wasn't allowed out. I was actually under lock and key. So I kept saying to my family, "Am I in jail? Like, what's going on here? Like, if I'm injured, why?" And they would explain to me, Jim, you've got a brain injury. You can't think properly right now, right? So we need to keep you safe, right? That's why you're going to be here, and then once they think that it's safe to let you out of here, then you can go home. So that whole process of trying to understand that not only was I physically injured, but mentally I was definitely injured there as well. So it was very frustrating, very confusing. um, it took me a while even just to recognize my children. Well, I had two older children at the time, Melanie and Jimmy. And when they first came up, I didn't even know who they were. right? And that's heartbreaking when you don't
Yeah.
know who your own children are, right? So that was a little bit difficult.
And did you recognize at the time, like, so these kids come up, you don't recognize them. Did did anyone tell you like, "Hey, Jim, these are your kids?"
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Right. And the fact that I didn't remember them was a very brief moment of time, right?
Right.
I quickly started to get things back. It was more my short-term memory that was damaged than my long-term memory
Right.
that was damaged.
Right. So you went through this car accident where I imagine, the lucky that you survived that. And you wake up in the hospital, your body's broken, the brain is very damaged from this. You have to go through months of this rehabilitation in these hospitals. But after that, after they release you, I imagine that a lot of people would look at this and go like, my life is ruined, my life is over, um, and have this very negative outlook on things. Did you experience that at all?
Fortunately, I was always brought up to be a more of an optimist than a pessimist, right? My father is very supportive. My wife was very supportive. I mean, even though she was 6 months pregnant when the accident happened, we had the baby 3 months later. Um, she was very supportive. She took up a lot of the slack. She was always there for me. My parents were always there for me, my children. So I had a very supportive environment, and my
Mm-hmm.
background was to be very optimistic. I'm very fortunate from that standpoint. Um, there were times when I would get really down on myself, but because of my environment, it really allowed me to kind of get over that. And my background in the martial arts is always being about overcoming adversity, about
Mm-hmm.
doing what it takes to get to where you want to be.
Yeah. And for anyone that's watching this, Jim was a huge influence in my life and it just an amazing teacher for me. Um, and so that shines through so much that it very largely impacted me. And um, I often will look back on those times and be like, you can do this, right? You can overcome this. So what I'm hearing from you is that there was the internal environment of that optimism and of this overcoming, and the external environment where you had your wife, your kids, your parents who were there to support you through that recovery, right?
Oh, definitely, 100%.
And so, what do you think would have happened if you hadn't been raised in that to have that mindset? Like,
Well, I have to tell you because I've looked into it, right? In the subsequent years, I looked into it and I wanted to find out, you know, how severe is this? Do most people recover from this? Because the severity of the brain injury was quite substantial. In insurance terms, I guess they do it for ratings or whatever it is. That it was a catastrophic injury. So they told me I would never be able to walk, talk, teach karate again. That there was all of these different aspects that were going to be negatively affected.
yeah,
When they first said that to me, I thought, oh no, that's not going to be me. I'm going to overcome this,
yeah,
right? And I started to do everything that I needed to. Fortunately, because it was a car accident, I had really good support and medical support. So I had a full team of therapists. So I had a psychologist, I had a physiotherapist, an occupational therapist, a speech therapist, and my case manager. So I had a lot of support there in order to get through this, right?
hmm,
And I think it's because of the team of people I had behind me that backed up by my family that's what allowed me to get better because I've seen people with far less of a brain injury than I had and they're never getting out of care.
yeah,
They're always going to need care around them and I thank God, I thank my wife, I thank my family that they got me through to where I am today, because I've seen too many people not having what it takes to get where they need to be, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was the combination of having that mindset. And like you said, they said you were never going to walk, talk, teach karate again. And you said, no,
Right.
with the support of all of these professionals and your family, you were able to get through that, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that without the proper mindset, without that mindset of, yeah, things are bad. But I've always been of that mindset, that if things are bad, okay, what can we do to make them better? I've got
Yeah.
two choices. I can it's already beat me once. It's already messed my brain up. It's already messed my body up, right? If I don't strive to overcome this, it's beat me again. That means I've just given up. I'm going to die, right?
Yeah.
So in order to get over that, rather than look at what it's done and how negative it's been, what can I do now to problem solve? What can I do to make this better? How can I get ahead in life rather than let this tear me down and be the demise of me?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's absolutely, like, that's so critical, right? Because if we start getting into the opposite of that and we say, well, I guess that this is my sentence. This is just what I have to live with. There's nothing I can do. I'm just stuck. I'm the victim in this circumstance. Instead of saying, no, what can I do right now? What am I capable of doing, and what is within my control that I can start taking action on? Two
Well,
entirely different paths, right?
and I think that's so true. Even in teaching martial arts, when I teach the national team kids and teach them to be world champions, right? Is a defeat, if they have a bout and they don't do well, we try and get them to think, okay, you didn't win that bout, but what did you learn from that bout? How can that loss make you better? Right? Because we don't want you to dwell on the negative effects of that loss. But what did you learn? How can you work at things to make you better so that in the future that never happens to you again? If I can get people to think that way in sport, they're gonna eventually be world champions. Same thing with this injury. Okay, what did I learn from this injury? And I've said to people a lot of times, I almost look at this injury as a blessing in certain ways. And they think, what are you, crazy? Right? What is wrong with you? But I think through this injury, I hope, now, this is my perspective, not everybody else, but I think it's made me a better husband, right? I look at my wife and I see what she put up. She's put up with me, right? And I'm not an easy person to put up with. She didn't give up on me. It would have been easy to walk away from me when I couldn't work, I couldn't think, I couldn't do that. It would be easy for her to walk away. But she didn't. She stuck by me. I look at other people in my life that did the same thing and stuck by me, right? Didn't give up on me, stood by me. I think it's made me a better husband. I'm much more patient, I think. She might disagree, but I think I'm much more patient. I think I'm much more caring. I l- think about things when in any relationship, doesn't matter, husband, wife, kid, parents, there's going to be disagreements. I always try now to slow down and think a little bit more and take the other person's perspective
Yeah.
into consideration before I give my reply. Now, not all the time does it work, but that is my goal. I think it's made me a better husband. I think it's made me a better father, right? During those times, I was away all the time, working, opening schools, doing this, doing that. I think it's made me appreciate life a little bit more. And I think it's made me a much better person, friend, because I believe I'm much more thoughtful than I was previous to the accident.
Yeah. And it's amazing how challenges in our lives, even though at the time can be so incredibly devastating and negative, actually end up in some ways being blessings.
Yeah, I couldn't. It's strange when I tell people, yeah, I look at this maybe as a blessing. I think in the long run, I'm going to be much better because of it.
Yeah.
At least, I'll tell you what, at least I'm going to try to be, and I think that's a big part of it. I've got to
Yeah.
try and be much better.
And this is the whole point of this podcast, right? It's this mindset that you have that's allowing you now, yes, like support is incredibly important. I don't want to take away in any capacity from the people that supported you. But without the mindset, it also wouldn't have happened and it wouldn't continue to happen, right?
Definitely. And I think that's why I come back to the whole karate thing. I think the whole mindset of karate, be it through sport karate or traditional karate, I think that sets you up, if used properly, to overcome the adversity, to shoot and go for the goals that you want in life, whether it's to be a black belt or whether it's to win a medal at a local tournament or be a world champion. There's a lot of adversity that comes up during the process, and
Yeah.
it's up to your character, up to your mindset as to whether you're going to overcome all of those obstacles and reach your ultimate goal.
Yeah. So, just by the way, for those who are listening, feel free to post any questions you have for Jim in the comment section. We're watching it live and happy to ask those for you.
Okay.
So, Jim, one of the questions I have is how many world champions have you trained up to this point?
Oh, I would say that I personally have trained a lot of world champions. I can't, but myself and my team of instructors, right? I would say that we have produced hundreds of world champions, if not,
Hundreds.
if not thousands, right? So my ex-partners and people I work with still through the World Karate Commission, right? WKC, Mike Bernardo and John Duvras, hundreds, if not thousands, of world champions. And the three of us use the same kind of system. We push people to reach for high goals. We don't set the bar low. We
Yeah.
set the bar high. And we give them all the tools that they require to get there. And we constantly remind them that, hey, you're not getting there if you're not working hard. Those kids in Guatemala are trying their hardest to take your world championship away. Those kids in England and Scotland, they're tough, right? Those kids in Puerto Rico, you got to watch because they're after your world championships. So we'll set the bar high for them. We'll expect them to reach high standards, and we'll
Yep.
give them all the tools that are required to get there. And I think that's really important, that we also give them the support to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the reason that I ask this is because we can learn so much from the training that goes into becoming a world champion, right? Even if it's not that we want to become the best in the world at, something, we can still improve our lives so much by following in their footsteps. So you talked before about how when someone loses in a fight or in a match, it's not well, we lost, this sucks, blah 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 blah. It's what can you learn from this? How can you use this as a stepping stone, right?
Yeah, and again, I was so blessed because my daughter, that little baby girl, Leah, right, that was in her mommy's tummy when I had the accident. She's been to every one of my therapy appointments. She walked hand in hand with me when I was in crutches, make sure I got across the road. She is still helping me even today. So she's won on now. She's won world championships, right? She's done amazing. But even in her losses, she'll say to me, Dad, I didn't lose, right? I learned, right? I learned what to do next time to win, right? So again, being surrounded by positive people, my daughter, right? The WKC, all of those students there that strive to be their very best.
Yeah.
And they entrust me to give them the right skills, the right mindset, the right tools. I would say my biggest strength is giving that to my athletes. I get them to believe in themselves, not me, in themselves. They got to believe in themselves, and I instill that work ethic in them. If they get that, like I said before, I will guarantee them a world championship if they do the right things.
Yeah, absolutely. And if to I just love how you put it. It's so, because you hit on like the really important things, right? This is what it takes for success.
Well, Jordan, I think it's so true, and it's my dad. He told me, it's what he put in my mind that I don't care if you want to be a karate person, or if you want to be a street sweeper. You be the best street sweeper that you can be, and then you're successful. But whatever you do, try and be the best at it. Right?
Yeah,
If you can't, strive to be the best. If you can do it, that's great. But you got to go out every day and give it your best shot.
absolutely. So, is there any other advice or things that you think someone who's struggling right now, someone who's unhappy with where they're finding themselves in their life, is there anything that you think that they should know?
Um, I think that you have to go in with a positive mindset. Now, when I say that, I think we talked about it earlier on. Is yeah, you know what? Part of my big downfall, if I was to do things over again, um, I'm very optimistic. So I expect things to go well. However, sometimes I get too optimistic, right? And I think that can also be a danger. So what I've done now is say, okay, this is where I want to be, but along the way, I'm going to look at running into these obstacles. If A happens, B happens, C happens, what am I going to do to be able to overcome that? So, although I'm optimistic, I also have to have a plan that if it doesn't go quite the way I want it to go, what am I going to do to allow myself to overcome that obstacle? So, I think as well as being optimistic, we've got to also have a plan. At least have an idea. If this doesn't happen, what am I going to do? If we do that, I think it sets us up for far more success, and at least overcoming any obstacles that come in our way.
Yeah, so true. I was reading, I think the book was called Relentless, and I forget his name now. I'll put it in the comments later, everyone. Um, and he was looking at the top of the best athletes. So he worked a lot in basketball. He was the trainer of Michael Jordan. He was the trainer of Kobe Bryant, LeBron James. And what he was in the book, he talked a little bit about Michael Phelps. And he said that when Michael Phelps, in whatever Olympic it was, he set a world record, but right off the bat, he got water in his goggles and he had to do the entire swim blind, and he still set a world record. And afterwards, people were like, "What was that like? Like, you you are in the top of the top. You work so hard to get here, and then something like that goes wrong." And he says, "It was exactly like I imagined it."
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
was like, "Wow,
You know, Jordan, it's I believe I am one of the best coaches in the world for sport karate, right? And that's not me being a bragger. I just know what I'm capable of doing and what I can bring to the table.
Yep.
But the reason I think I am so good at what I do, if there's anything that I'm good at, it's coaching people how to fight sport karate, right? The reason I think I'm so good at doing it is because I have made every single mistake that my athletes are going to have to make, right?
Right.
And the biggest one for me was mindset. Out of every world championship I've attended, so I think I attended five or six world championships, but I brought home 7 medals, right? Because I medaled twice in 2 events at one.
So
However,
7 world championship medals.
yes, but here's the problem though, that the majority of them were silver or bronze and not gold, right? And I'll tell you, but in examining why, because it drove me absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
I could always get to the finals, always, right? It wasn't hard for me to get to the finals. But in the finals, my mind, I lost it. I would put too much pressure on myself. I worried, oh, if I lose, what are people going to think about me? Or if this happens, right? And I never want that to happen to my students,
Yeah.
right? That has haunted me. And I think that the self-therapy I'm doing, I'm just getting over it now. But I never want that to happen to my students, right? I never want to see the tears in their eyes when they get that second place or third place, because it hurts me as much as it hurts them, maybe more, because I think I let them down.
Right.
So all of the lessons I've learned, why I'm so big on mindset now, is I want them to believe in themselves. Once they start to feel that the nerves and the anxiety of competition, I want to give them the tools that they can overcome that, right? And they can go on and they can win and their hand can be raised on that podium. That's what's important to me. And that's why I'm so big on the mindset, because I made all the mistakes and I don't want them to make the same mistakes that I made.
Yeah. So can you speak on the value of mistakes, like the value that mistakes and losses have brought to your life, into the life of um, your students?
Yeah, and again, it's what really makes me love what I do. The kicking and the punching and the violent side of what you see in sport karate or any other martial arts, it is a very small piece to me. But I love the strategies that are involved. And a lot of that, the strategies that are involved involves mindset, right? You have to train hard for the event. You cannot get good at anything, right? This 5 days to lose 100 pounds or 50 pounds, that's just not there,
Yeah.
right? How to easily win a world championship, that's not there. You got to put the effort into it. You got to overcome the adversity. When you make a mistake, right, you've got to learn from that mistake and learn not to make it the next time. How do you improve it? And you've got to make sure that you're consistent with your training, that you work hard every day, that you learn from each workout, right? And that you've got a good support system. And
Hmm.
if you can do that, then you're going to decrease the mistakes and you're going to move your way to world championship performance, whether it's in sport karate, in physiotherapy, in cleaning the streets, in painting a picture, right? You've got to go through that trial and error process and the learning process that goes along with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So am I hearing you right that our mistakes are like the stepping stones to success?
Without your mistakes, you're not going to learn, right? You're not going to be great. Sorry, you are not going to be great if you can't make those mistakes and learn from them. If
Yeah.
all you're going to do is keep repeating those mistakes, then hey, you're going to get what that gets you. But if you can learn from every mistake that you make and have that mindset. Now, when I say when you make a mistake, you got to learn from it and then get over it. as quickly as possible. Because one of my big problems, Jordan, and again, it's from experience, was I would dwell on my mistake. Oh my God, I just did that. Oh, everybody's going to think I'm terrible. Well, that would make me make the same mistake or another mistake because I wasn't focusing on where I was going next, on the great performance I could do. I was still in the past, right? I still had that baggage, right? That's not how you become a world champion at
Mm.
anything. It's by focusing on the future and what you can do to take you there.
Yeah, I love that. I'm inspired right now.
Well,
And
I'm glad.
the I see so often, um, especially, like because of the nature of the work that I do, I get to speak with people on such a deep level. And I see so often that we fall off the horse and then we stay down, right? And it's like you were saying, we're dwelling on that mistake. And I think there needs to be a shift from dwelling on the mistake to saying, how quickly are you getting back up? Because it's in the getting back up and being unafraid to do so that we really start to see the success, right?
Well, and I think it is so true, Jordan. And I'm going to go back to your support system, right?
Hmm.
You have to have a strong support system. That's why I like the organization that I'm part of, the WKC, because my ex-partners, Mike Bernardo and John Duvras, um, we've got the same mindset that the whole thing that we do, we're trying to educate not just the athlete themselves, but we also have to try and educate their individual coaches. We have to educate the parents because if you don't have supportive uh, peers around you, if your parents aren't supportive, if they're not expressing the same positive mindset and how to overcome adversity and how to praise and how to get your child or your student to the next level, it's going to be much harder. It takes the whole team. And any one of those team people, whether it's one of their peers, their instructors, their parents, all of the good work we do, they can destroy it by a bad comment or a bad attitude, right? Or punishing the child for the wrong thing, right? They can destroy all that good work. So you need a good environment. And
Hmm.
without that good environment, it makes it hard for the coach, for the athlete, because it can be destroyed by one simple comment.
Yeah. And so for people who are finding themselves in a rut, chances are the environment isn't super great for them. So how does someone go about creating a good environment? Do you have any tips on that?
Again, I come from a family that really promotes that. Like, so reading good books, right? Searching the internet. There is so much out there that you can get for free. Go to
Hmm.
YouTube, go to these kind of podcasts, right? That you're filling your brain with positive messages, right? Because it's too easy in today's environment to get negative. You turn on the TV, right? You're going to hear all the bad things about COVID and everything else. You look at the papers, you see all the murders and all of the bad stuff. There's enough of that out there. You have to go and actively search out the positive. So read good books, read or listen to positive podcasts, surround yourself with positive people. You and I talked this morning. How you start your day is so important. So
Yeah.
you were talking about going for a run this morning.
Yep.
Very important. Get your mind going, get your body going. I walk my dog. It's a little bit easier for me. You go on a 10-mile run, I go on a 1-mile walk for my dog. But during that time, I'm saying all the positive things that I'm appreciative for. So I'm appreciative for my wife made my coffee in the morning and that I got to walk with my dog because remember, I wasn't supposed to be able to walk, that
Yeah.
I got to make my bed first thing in the morning. I did something positive for myself. I made my own bed. I messed my bed. I made my bed, right? Just like in life, right? And you know what? I think starting your day off positive, after I make my bed, I sit back and I think of what I've got to do, all the positive things I got to do, and the negative things, I'm going to try and do them right away. So they're done and I can enjoy the rest of the day. So I've got my own routine, and I believe you've got your own routine too to start your day off positive.
Yeah. Yep. I think that is such a key component. Like there's I'm sure there's sayings about this, but the beginning of the day like really sets you up for how the rest of the day is going to go, right? So I know that if I hit snooze 5 times on my phone when the alarm's going off, it's going to be that kind of day. Like that is going to permeate throughout my day, right? But I know that if I jump out of bed as soon as my alarm goes off, and this actually started in high school when I was training with you, Jim, was I would
Oh,
jump out of bed and I would do 100 push-ups and like just to wake the body up, right? And so now I try to jump out of bed, do push-ups. I don't do 100 anymore. Um, and then I really enjoy being active first thing in the morning. It like wakes the body up, it invigorates you for the day. We were chatting this morning, I went for a run. And the appreciation part is where I'm going with all of this. And I think that people talk about it a lot, but it wasn't until I started doing it and really, really doing it and feeling it internally that I really understood where my time to do it is often in the shower. And I take it as a moment of pause in my day just to be grateful. And I try to be creative with my gratitude and not just do the same things all the time. So I might be grateful, that I have this nice lighting in the bathroom that I can see. I might be,
yeah.
I'm grateful that I can control the water temperature. I'm grateful that I have toes. I'm grateful that, like just little things that you start to realize how much wonderful things there are in our lives.
Yeah,
Um,
and that is so true. Like I said, there's enough negative out there. Don't fill your mind with it. Fill your
yeah.
mind with positivity. It's going to get you a lot further.
Yeah. So I have just one last question here before we wrap up. Actually, I guess two. The first one is if someone is struggling with their health and with their life and they feel like they don't have support, do you think that sport karate is something that you would recommend to them as a way to take themselves towards success?
I definitely do. I think they've got to find the right school, right? And do a little bit of searching, right? Do a little bit of research because there's a lot of great schools, but there's also bad schools.
Right.
Just like anything else, if you've got a good instructor, they're going to take you to wonderful places. But if you get somebody that doesn't have the proper mindset, right? They can take you to a negative place. They can make the experience bad for you.
Yeah.
So do your research first, right? And make sure that they're just not focusing on the physical, but there's also the mental component there. The character building component is very important.
Yeah. Awesome. And so where can someone find, let's say someone wants to be like, I want Jim Flood. Are you accepting clients like that? Are you open to the public? How are you working?
Uh, yeah, right. Through the school, we definitely be. All they'd have to do is Google East West Karate and Fitness, right, in Mississauga, and you would be able to find out from there exactly what we do, how we do it. If you go there again, you look at our website, you'll see it's very character based, right, and it's very family oriented. Not putting down any other school, but we are not a UFC school trying to beat people up. That's not what we teach, right? Not that all UFC schools are bad, because some are very good, but we're more character based, more family oriented. So you got to find the school that's best suited for you. If you're
Yeah,
after a more UFC Muay Thai school, then you got to do that research and find one that is suited for your needs.
absolutely. Fantastic. So that was East West Karate in Mississauga.
Yes. right? And
Fantastic.
there's great schools in London area. It would be Bernardo's Karate, and in Ottawa area, it would be Duvras Karate, right? Those places, highly recommend anytime. Put my reputation at stake on those people, but definitely they're good schools.
Awesome. Last question for you. Is there anything else that you want to say? Anything that we didn't cover?
No, well, I just a real quick observation. So during my recovery, my case manager was an ex-student. He actually requested my file when he saw that I was involved in an accident. He helped me get through this, right? You doing this podcast, right? It's amazing. Another ex-student. Through my life, I've been helped by the relationships I built through this karate journey. And to me, that's what's really important. It's not the kicking and the punching, right? It's the relationship, it's the character that's built through this thing. And I'm just blessed to be part of it. And thank you very much for having me, Jordan.
Thank you for being here, Jim. It's absolutely my pleasure. And I hope at some point we can do something like this again.
Get this social isolation thing done with, and we're going to start training.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it. Alrighty. Thank you, everyone. And we will see you on next week's episode, Saturday, May, what is that? May 9th with Dr. Oksana Sawiak. Fantastic. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Mountains We Climb. This is really only possible thanks to your support. If you found this useful, if you found this interesting, please leave a comment, give it a like, and if you know anyone that you think might enjoy something like this, consider giving it a share. It really does help it grow, and it helps support me and the people that I'm interviewing. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.